a child of God. I am a spirit living on earth.
Our next talk, Dr. Vanessa Anzalone is going to talk about the emotional component of cancer. And her work studies those mechanisms because she's a neuroscientist. The subject of her talk, the emotional component of cancer.
It is a pleasure for me to introduce my good friend, Dr. Vanessa Anzalone. For those of you who don't know her, she has a doctorate in psychology, a PhD, a neuroscientist, and assistant director at the University of Maryland. She is also the fifth-generation Spiritist, president and founder of the Spiritist Society of Virginia and the Spiritist Society of Baltimore. She's also a Spiritist medium, fraternal counselor, and coordinates spiritual treatments and workshops in the U.S. and worldwide. She's also the co-author of the book, The New Generation, with Divaldo Franco, editor-in-chief of the Spiritist magazine, founder of Kardec Radio. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Vanessa Anzalone to the podium.
Okay. Heart. Who doesn't have a heart? Who in this room can tell, you know what, nothing affects me? Anybody? Anybody? We wish, right? Jesus is the only one we know of that had his... I heard a Rodo in Boston yesterday in a beautiful event, and he was saying, the remote control. Who has the remote control of your emotions? Somebody else? Very nice. Jesus had his remote control in his hands. Do we? It's very unlikely. We're trying to get there. But the fact of the matter is that in the spirit-mind-body connection, there's so much to understand. We are multidimensional beings. We are emotional beings, inevitably. Science tells it. If there is anybody here who is still doubting that our emotional part is something minor, it's likely that life through challenges, illnesses, will prove us wrong. It's the core of our being. There is no separation. And it couldn't be. And it was a while ago when, for the first time in science, Darwin actually was the first one to observe more scientifically the impact of emotions on us. He observed that our body language expressed them, even in animals. And he said, you know what? Appreciate your emotions. He was not writing self-help books. But he could come today and say, hey, love your emotions, because you know, they are adaptive. They are a response to what's happening to us. So they're not bad. If we're feeling sad, we can't feel guilty, because it's a response to something that is happening to us. The problem is not sadness. It's like fever. Can't blame on the fever. Because fever is a blessing. It's telling you a warning. Hey, there's something wrong. Because your body is working harder than it should to fight something. Go figure this out. So taking Advil and lowering the fever is not going to resolve. Go to the doctor and figure out, because something was raising the temperature of the body, overworking. And you need to know what it is, because fever is not the cause. Emotions are not the cause. Who likes feeling angry? We don't. How do you feel after feeling anger? Oh, then you feel angry about yourself. That's bad. But anger is physiological. Even animals feel it. It's protective. It's a mechanism of defense. The problem is holding on to anger and forming traumas with that anger. Then it's going to hurt. Stress is not a problem. Chronic stress is a problem. Stress is a natural response to the need to change. If I don't change, then it's my problem. But stress is good because it's a response to of the body telling you, and psychologically, I have to change. I don't want to change. I have to change. So emotions are adaptive to what's happening. Look at these pictures. We have this beautiful art today. And by the way, we have to thank again Aloysio for putting so much effort into the beautiful portraits, and Marcos Falcão and his friend for driving all the way from Florida, driving to bring this beautiful, large portrait. So it's really worthwhile cherishing it, because Darwin was an artist too. He wasn't only a scientist. He was drawing the body language of animals and people and showing for the first time that what we feel is expressed in our body, inevitably. So emotions are vital for our health. How many names of emotion do you know in your head? How many emotions do you think exist? Numbers. Let's give numbers. Somebody. No, Kirsten, you already know it. No fair. Okay, Sarah. 200? 100? Very close. 150. That's how much we know today. Thanks to psychologists in California, today we have dictionary of emotions and even cards to play with them. And we got to the conclusion that to deal with emotions, we need to face them. Not like monsters, like beautiful responses to who we are and what is happening around us. Oh, I'm feeling this way. And that's why, it's just a side comment, Italians are probably ahead of it. And they don't care. If you're angry today, tomorrow they hug, and that's fine. And nothing to do with my last name, Anceloni. But in reality, Darwin was right. And even Spiritism vouches for it. Allan Kardec, in the Spirit's book, he brought to us the essence of the Spirit's mind is being reflected in our spiritual body, as Dr. Margalhães portrayed to us in the beautiful diagrams. And soon, in the physical body, we may resent it. We don't like it. But as he said, big deal. It's just a part of life. And John came here and wrapped it up in a beautiful way. What is interesting is that those emotions are not felt in your heart. They are felt in our brain. So there is a heart in the brain, figuratively. Because it's actually our brain that processes emotions. If I get and stimulate some parts of our brains, we're going to start feeling joy or fear or anger or many other emotions. And there's nothing happening around. I mean, in the lab. But out of the lab, Spiritism explains how that is possible. That energy fields can be applied and stimulate each other's emotions. Nowadays, science shows to us that emotions are contagious. We saw the children singing. Their smiles, how did you feel? Smiling. Mirror neurons in the brain. They are there. That's why it's so good to be around all these great minds and our family, the community, because then we exchange these responses to life. and support each other. It's so important. It's about health. No wonder Jesus said, make more friends. Because we're social beings. We need one another. Law of society in the Spirit's book. We need to be selective to the people we have in our lives. Not in a way to put them away, but selective, as Emmanuel said, live amongst the wisest to learn from them, and amongst the most ignorant to teach them. He never said, go away, but set the tone on how we're going to create our relationships in our lives. Not to control others, because we already know by now, our children will learn. We probably have already learned. It doesn't work. We try, and it doesn't work. And it's not supposed to be like this, because Mother Teresa said, in the end of life, everything that happens to us is between us and God, never between us and anybody else. Thank God. This amazing neuroscientist, who is the leader, Dr. Antonio Damasio, he's Portuguese, naturalized American, one of the leaders in neuroscience of emotions in the United States and the world. He has already proved through neuroimaging that our emotions are so connected to our reasoning that it's impossible to think without our emotional being. This thing, oh, let me put aside my emotion. Where? How? Because as a neuroscientist, I don't see how. Can you take those parts of the brain out and say, no, now I'm not going to feel anything? It is there. Of course, we're going to talk about how to manage it, but he says quite clearly that emotions, far from being a biological oddity, is actually an integral part of cognition. So the colors of what we see in the world, how we see ourselves in the mirror, depends on the emotional colors inside of us. So we need to know, what kinds of emotions have I been feeling lately? Joy, hope, or sadness, hatred? What is it? I need to create a system to coach my emotion, because to be healthy in not only in this life, in immortality, will depend on our dealing with our emotions. If tomorrow I get sick, and I know of this, feeling guilty is not going to help. Because many people, when they find out about the interaction between emotions and health, between their attitude before life and health, they start feeling guilty. Oh my God, am I creating this? Am I creating this cancer? No, that's not how you should look at it. How do we know? We know of it because we are co-creators. We're not creators. I'm not saying God created cancer. That's not what I mean. But we're saying, if I misused my share on the universe as a co-creator, and this is the current result, this is not the eternal result. It's just a temporary picture telling me, hey, change, move, prioritize what is most important. Sometimes it's a signal. How do we know of it? If you look at all these pictures, but Jesus, all these great men and women on the earth, they all faced illnesses in their lives. And it's likely that they are at a very high level, and they were at the time. Why Chico Xavier went through illnesses? Whereas people who were criminals at the time had not even a flu. Why? Because Chico Xavier was being punished? Marco said, no, illness is not punishment. Then in the book Action and Reaction, we have a whole chapter, Dr. André Luiz explaining 3 types of pain. Have everything to do with our emotions. Pain evolution. It's when we are suffering to evolve. It could be cancer. It could be a flu. It could be a broken leg. I don't know. Only you know. God in you. But it could be pain expiation or atonement, which is something that we talk about karma. So not every illnesses are related to karma. Because some are pushing us to evolve, saying, don't stay in the comfort zone. Come on. And then we start thinking about God. We needed that push. How many people like Louise Hay? She thanks for the cancer she had because she discovered a new life and opened a new life for millions of people around the world. How many people are in that pathway? And there is another type of pain or suffering, which is assisting pain. And what is it? André Luiz explained, the spirit doctor, he explains that it is a pain or a suffering, which depends on our perception, that comes to prevent us from making graver mistakes. Wow. Mind-blowing. This Spiritist view is revolutionary. It rids ourselves of guilt. It invites us to the new. That's why Selenia, as Steve said, never fell down because she had cancer. She never told me. I used to talk to her a lot. And I doubt if she told you ever, because she always told me she never felt guilty because she learned in Spiritism. You have cancer, flu, whatever. You're not less because of it. There's something that God is telling you. So it's a divine opportunity for growth. And it's because we are loved that we are ready to experience that. Those who are not ready cannot handle it. Who says that? Clint Eastwood said that in a movie, Carlos? Cannot handle it. You're right, Clint. And science tells us that actually self-criticism enhances the perception of pain. So we need to love ourselves. No wonder Moses brought that message from the higher spirits in the 10 Commandments. Loving God and loving. And then Jesus came along and added, and loving our neighbor as ourselves. I can't love my neighbor if I don't love myself. I need to evaluate, but not be like criticizing myself all the time. Why am I not rich as Mel Gibson? Am I worse than him? Well, if you talk to him, he's probably asking the same. Why he's not happy as you are? Maybe because I have too much money. It has nothing to do with external. It's about the inner. And in that inner journey that we'll find that we need to grow from instinctive emotions to sensations that are more refined. And as the spirits explain the gospel according to Spiritism, to actually reach feelings such as Christian love. To get to that level, we are in the school of the earth. That's why we are in the school of the earth. To refine our emotions, as the Spirit said in the Gospel according to Spiritism. And to understand that our morbid predispositions, they start in guilt complex. As André Luiz explains in the book Evolution in Two Worlds, chapter 19, part 2, he says that in the deep root of all illnesses, as Marco explained already, just to reinforce, is our spiritual body. It is there. How does it happen? He says that illnesses are formed actually at this discernment and emotional level. When we make a mistake that is so grave that our conscience doesn't allow it to go away, and we create these crystallizations. And in that remembrance, the memories of a grave mistake, I then form a zone of remorse in my perispirit. If we don't know how to forgive ourselves, this is our dynamic. We need to learn to forgive ourselves. And he says the zone of remorse in the spirit, the mind, the body, the mental body, will create a node of disturbance in my spiritual body. And that will then predispose me to illnesses. Marco already said that in other words. We're just taking from another point of view to reinforce this is the most important element. So we're talking about here our emotions. I can be angry today. What do I do with that anger? I can feel guilty today. What do I do with that guilt? I can't let it crystallize. When we tell like this, I forgive that person, but I don't want to talk to that person, it's somewhere in the mental body, and it's vibrating. And it's not a good memory. If we don't take care of it, it's going to express itself sooner or later, and the body is going to receive the imprint of it. If not in this reincarnation, some odd, until we face and resolve it. So, to wrap it up, because this is short, Mark already said it all. We're looking forward to Dr. Dutra Diaz to talk about the healing Christ, to march to that direction. Let us prepare our hearts for the therapeutics of our emotions. 3 main steps in this. The main remedy, Dr. André Luiz says, we need to work on our intense and radical renovation for the good. And he says, simple remedy, he says, study, edifying study that educates our mind. Our children, the books they read in school are not enough. We need to give them spiritual books to refine their spiritual mind. And the practice of love of our neighbor that perfects our sentiments. There is no way I'm going to exercise my Christian love by being isolated. I need to prepare myself each day I leave my home and think, God, give me openness to learn what I need to learn and to be helpful when I am needed. In every situation, we are going to put that in practice. If we don't succeed, we go by like Benjamin Franklin. We loved his joviality, his joyous mind. He had a plan to work on his emotions. He would go home, and as he said in his autobiography, he would say, you know, I went home and I knew I wasn't humble as I planned that day. Big deal, try next day. And I know maybe I'll try many days and never get it, but at least I'm trying. It's between him and God. And really is, because soon after, he got a major responsibility of helping the coming of Spiritism to the earth. Just reading the prolegómenas of the Spirit's book, and we get Benjamin Franklin in the team. And also, if we need to take medicine, It's not like what people are doing nowadays. We need to work our emotions when we take a pill and swallow it. Because there is chemistry there that will help us if and only if I activate the principle. How? Andre Lewis says, each and every medication is a projection of the chemoelectro elements over the cellular aggregations, stimulating its functions or correcting them. So if I take a pill like this, oh my God, I can't believe I have to take this medication. How many people are like this, right? Oh man, can you believe now I have to take 20 a day? Thank God we have it. There was a time we didn't. And Abraham Lincoln suffered of depression without the pills we have today. He succeeded, but he could have lived so much better. So if we do things, Abraham Lincoln, we're drinking this for you. Swallow it with happiness. And as Kardec says in the Spirit's book, there are elemental materials there. So we activate them with our intention. And finally, we should count on the help of the spirit doctors as well. Like in the movie No Solar. And Andre Lewis says in the book Evolution in Two Worlds, these spirit doctors, they not only have academic culture, but they have moral qualities with value, waiting, humility, and devotion. They are all around. They are present here today. They are present in our lives every day. And if we are in need of emotional control to boost our health, it's never too late to raise our thoughts in prayers and surrender our souls to the care of those divine messengers, the spirit doctors who are here to care for us, to balance our emotions until one day, because the plan is one day to achieve the loving care of the doctor of all doctors, Jesus Christ. Thank you very much.
I am a child